When Alldocube asked if I wanted to review their new tablet, I was all about it. I love checking out tablets. You know, as we move more to a phone world, people are looking less at tablets, but I think there's a lot of value to be had. This is going to be a little bit more of a casual review, but I want to look at this. I want to see if this new tablet has some value. But if you're interested in the new Alldocube tablet, is the iPlay 80 Mini Ultra worth it? Let's open the box and take a closer look at this tablet to see what it's all about. So let's hop in. First things first, this was sent to me from the company for review. The company isn't seeing this review beforehand. They have no input into what I'm saying. And of course, I'm going to give you my honest thoughts to what I think about it. So what is the iPlay 80 Mini Ultra? It's a pretty interesting device. This comes with the Dimensity 8300, which is one of their newer chips. But unfortunately, this is also one of the big negatives about this device. It doesn't have driver support for high-end emulation and PC emulation. The device itself has an 8.8-inch IPS display. It's not OLED, but it is a beautiful panel. It supports 144 Hz, which is pretty decent. The screen remains smooth with no ghosting. Another bonus about this tablet is it has Wi-Fi level 1. This means that you can get nice streaming quality on your device. I've been actually sick for the last week, so I've been using this to watch movies. One bonus about this is it does have a pretty big battery, but it is kind of slow to charge. It has 4K video decoding and it supports DisplayPort out via the USB-C port. As of recording this video, I'm not sure when I'm going to get it up, but this is set to go live on March 13th and it's going to be launching on AliExpress. So if you want this, definitely get it during that promotional period to save a little bit of money. They also launched a security update today, which kind of patched that security vulnerability. They said that they're working with Kaspersky for independent security verification on the updated firmware. This makes sure that their products are up to security standards, which is really nice to see. It's good to see that they take their security seriously. If I find a link, I'll leave that down below with their email that they sent out to the community regarding that security incident. And there were only a few models that were affected, but they patched those really fast. So that's pretty nice. First thing I noticed when I picked this up, it's pretty light. It's kind of interesting because when you're reviewing tech, you kind of associate weight with quality. The build quality is pretty decent though. It's light. It's not in a bad way though. The back is plastic, but it feels very durable. I almost thought this was metal at one point. The sides are made out of aluminum, so it kind of gives you a good impression of a solid build. On the back, you have a dual camera display. On the top, you have a speaker. On the right side, you got a volume rocker with a power button. I actually kind of really like this accent color. Kind of gives off the gamery vibe. There's a little bit of subtle branding on the back too. It's kind of nice. I actually don't really like it when companies just kind of like slap a logo on there. On the other side, here's something that you don't see on tablets very often, a SIM card slot. This does support 5G, which is pretty nice, and it also has a micro SD card slot in here as well. On the bottom, you got a microphone, you got a USB-C port that does support video out, as I mentioned, and of course another speaker. So all in all, first impressions pretty decent. There's only one thing that I'm worried about with this tablet in particular, and it's the same concern that I had with the Alldocube UltraPad that I just reviewed, and that's of course the glass itself. The Alldocube UltraPad just has standard glass, and they have no tempered screen protectors that you can buy with it. I'm pretty sure this is not Dragon Trail glass, or Gorilla Glass, or anything durable like that. Since the last one didn't have it, I'm pretty sure this one doesn't either. Alldocube puts a screen protector on their tablets, which is a nice touch, but it is plastic. This means that it attracts a lot of fingerprints, and it gets very scuffy. Genuinely, one of the biggest concerns that I have with these devices is the glass quality. It doesn't necessarily mean the glass is going to break on you. It's still glass, and I don't think it's cheap glass. This definitely isn't the same sort of glass that we have on our phones. So what about the rigidity? Does this feel like a good quality device? There's no flex. Not putting much into it. Obviously, I don't want to break this, but it's pretty solid. I always wince when people do this. I'm really not putting any pressure, but it's not wiggling at all. It's a solid frame. The weight is also another area where this tablet excels. It's not heavy. It just feels like holding a phone. It's incredibly thin. This tablet is so light. It's only 330.4 grams. To put that in perspective, my new phone, the K90 Pro Max, which I also did a review on, is only 100 grams lighter at 231 grams. I think this is a pretty heavy phone, but the thing is, this is a smaller device. It's dense. This is completely made out of aluminum, basically. Alldocube could have done the same thing and made this completely out of aluminum, including the back, but that comes with a lot of negatives. That would have meant a lot more weight, and that also would have interfered with the Wi-Fi signal. If you've seen my UltraPad review, you know the Wi-Fi was kind of shoddy on the UltraPad. It had decent speed, but the range was really bad. This doesn't support 6 GHz bands, but the range is really good on 5 GHz bands, and the speed is excellent. Another thing I really like about it too is the size. This makes for excellent portability. I can slip this into the tablet portion of my backpack with no issues whatsoever. It's only slightly bigger than my phone, which means that it's excellent for reading, but we'll check that out later. One thing you might notice is this does have some bezels, but they're pretty minimal. The sides are very, very narrow. There's a little bit on the top and the bottom, but it's still not the biggest bezel I've seen on a tablet. Even the UltraPad had a bigger bezel than this. The way I see it, this is more of a budget Y700. I love that tablet, but if you can't afford it, I think this is trying to aim at that target. What about the screen? The screen itself is pretty decent. On YouTube, you can go up to 4K, and it can also support HDR video, which is a nice bonus. It's not the brightest screen that I've seen, but it's definitely not the darkest. 500 nits isn't bad, especially for an IPS panel. The black levels are pretty decent, but what I really like about this panel is the color accuracy. It's a vibrant panel, but not as bright and not as vibrant as the Y700. 500 nits is kind of the baseline for screens for me. I don't really like things that are too dark, because if it gets too dark, it's just hard using it, even in your front room if you have a window open. Anything under 400, 450 is just too hard to see in a bright room. 500 is usable. I've been able to use this on my couch in my living room with no issues. I've also had no PWM flickering. In fact, let me turn off the lights. Yeah, so it's a good panel. I really like the colors. It's definitely more of a color accurate panel than the UltraPad was. Because it's not OLED though, you do see the backlight. I also don't really notice any light bleed either, which is really nice. All the edges look pretty uniform to me. This also has DRM, which is really nice for streaming. Some of the problems you get with like overseas devices like the Odin Portal and some other tablets from companies you've probably never heard of is that they don't have the same DRM certification, which means no HD Netflix. No HD Crunchyroll. Good quality video. Absolutely love watching movies on this. You also get a laminated panel too, of course, so there's no gap underneath the glass. What about the audio levels? Well, I mean, it's a tablet, so I don't really expect much. It's not as good as my phone for audio quality, but the speakers are usable. Let me show you what they sound like. I'm going to use an audio sample from Argos. He's a good friend. Make sure to check out his music in the description below. I don't know, I'm pretty impressed with the audio quality. That was only at half volume. I did notice a little distortion around the 75-80% mark, but for the most part, it remained pretty consistent. There was pretty good bass too. This chip is pretty interesting too in the fact that I can't use my default overlay to show any sort of specs. The only things that I can get are of course the CPU frequencies and the CPU temperature. It doesn't let me show any GPU usage. Played some games on it and it does get a little toasty. My temperatures peaked at around 80 to 82 degrees Celsius. It's pretty normal for a tablet. If you watch my Y700 review, especially when PC gaming, you're going to remember that that thing got hot too. In regards to Wildlife Extreme for Vulkan performance, I got 2,913, so it's roughly faster than 57% of devices. Not game-breaking performance, but pretty solid for the price, especially compared to what you can buy on Amazon Canada or Best Buy. The thing that I like about this chip is it's also really efficient. You're going to notice that these CPU cores are downclocking pretty significantly when they're not being used. That means great battery life, and I definitely noticed that. After like 4 hours of streaming, I was down to maybe like 75%. It has Android 16, and the latest security patch is from January 5th, 2026. It's not rooted, which is good. And we have that Widevine level 1. It can go up to 3.35 gigahertz with the 1 prime core. And we have a Mali G615. Just idling here, you're getting about 3 watts of battery drain. It's not horrible. With that 7200 milliamp hour capacity advertised. Remember how I said the Wi-Fi was excellent? Getting just over 1,000 megabits per second. This is Wi-Fi 6 over the 5 gigahertz band. It's about 40% faster than the UltraPad that I just reviewed from them. Interesting as well is that this device info reads the screen at 10.9 inches, which is kind of odd. You have HDR10 support with HLG and HDR10 Plus. This unit also comes with 12 gigabytes of RAM. In terms of handhelds or tablets, this is the Goldilocks zone. It gives you enough for Android and some pretty decent high-end Android games. Unfortunately, since they use the Dimensity chip, that means that PC emulation or just high-end emulation in general is going to be hit or miss. How does games run? I really like the fact that it can play some decent tablet games like Loop Hero. Of course, these are pretty light games, but it's a decent size for playing stuff when you're on the go. So what about some other high-end games like Subnautica? Just be prepared, this is not as good as you might expect, but it's not as bad as you might expect. Let's get a controller on here too. This is the Absolute S9 and it absolutely fits. It's pretty stuttery. Not a great experience. So the CPU float, what I use for overlays, is not designed for this Android. It's designed for the older versions. So I guess it got stuck. You see if I can fix that by restarting the screen. Restarting fixed it. I don't know why it's running so low, but none of the CPU cores are going over like 1.5 gigahertz. There's also no performance toggles either on the main menu. Oh, it's locked to 30 FPS, that's why. So I'm going to set the FPS cap to 144. I'm also going to set everything, let's set everything to max. Let's see how it runs. Oh, that's much better. And that chip is now boosting to the max frequency. Actually, this is really smooth. I'm kind of surprised to see it run like this. Good thing about this one is this chip does actually have a lot of GPU power. But remember, we are limited, of course, in the fact that this is a tablet. And tablets and phones have the same problem, and that's temperature. Look how hot this thing is getting. Let me zoom in. 72 degrees Celsius, but I did just see it go up to 82. And as soon as the temperature jumps, it does look like some of these cores are trying to drop down to maintain that temperature. I don't know how this is affecting the GPU because I don't have an overlay for that. Either way, the game still feels smooth. So, I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Super smooth. 67, 68. So it looks like when you're gaming high-end Android, maxed out settings, your temperature is kind of going to hover around that 70 degree mark, 65, 70 degrees. I think overall, I'm more impressed with the gaming on this than I thought it was going to be. It kind of went above and beyond my expectations. Not as good as the Y700, but pretty impressive. Let's try Wreckfest. The graphics look horrible because this is the default settings. Let me boost those up. The controls aren't working either. That's interesting. I'll turn these all to ultra, but I'm going to leave the MSAA down to 2x. I also turned off the motion blur. Let's check out the controls. Interesting. It sees this as a wireless controller. Still no controls. Interesting. I think it has to do with the... Oh, there we go. I had it set to the wrong mode. I don't know. It feels smooth to me. No stuttering. Not bad. Again, it's still hovering around that 70 degree mark. You guys get to see my awesome driving skills. I don't know, I find that really interesting. It kind of goes up to that 70, 75 degree mark, and then it just kind of like throttle. It doesn't, I don't even know if it's throttling. It's like adjusting itself. I guess in a way that's kind of throttling. If it is throttling, it's not noticeable to me. Huh, interesting. Gaming performance, not bad. The screen, really good. What else should we talk about? Let's go through the settings menu a little bit. So in terms of the Android OS on this, it's pretty bare bones. There are a few different graphical options that you can adjust. You can adjust the color temperature. I set this to warm. Default, it looks a little blue. If you set it to warm, it gives you more of a, I don't know, I find this a little bit more accurate. It gets rid of the bluish tint. It also has a reading mode, but that just basically turns everything kind of blue. I don't think I'll ever use that. The only thing that they have in the settings that's kind of interesting as well is something called Duraspeed. It looks like this just restricts the background apps. So if you wanted to play a game with no interruptions, you could go in here, like for Loop Hero, you could just like check that and it'll mute the background notifications. Basically just gives you a little bit better RAM management. You do get Google Play services, which is nice. There is an adaptive battery setting. I like to shut these things kind of off, but doing a good job at whatever it's doing. Oh, and it does have bypass charging. If you wanted to use this kind of like as a console dock to your TV, the bypass power supply charging is nice. It also does have that feature that a lot of these tablets and brands like AYN and Retroid have. It's called the memory expansion. This just means that if you find yourself using 12 gigabytes, which I honestly don't think you're going to use, but if you want more, you can use some of the UFS storage as extra memory. It's like a page file for computers. Bear in mind that this might make the storage a little slower, so I do shut this off. It's a pretty bare bones Android. There's really also not a lot of bloat in the Android system. Not sure what this is. Get rid of that. So there's one app here. The rest of this I've installed myself. You got the launcher. Yeah, basically everything else is just stock Android. It's a pretty clean interface. I've been reading Sakamoto Days on here. It's been a pretty good experience. What I like to do is generally just put this in my laptop bag. And because it doesn't really add much weight to my overall bag for the day, it's nice if I want to just finish reading my manga. The other thing that I really like too is for manga specifically, it's a pretty sharp display. Obviously, it depends on the quality of the manga you're reading, but it's been pretty decent for reading in general. The other thing too is I think this is better than something large like the UltraPad. It's a decent size. It gives you roughly about the same size page as what you would find in a regular real manga book. And because it's light, it's quite easy to hold too. So for someone like me anyways that wants to carry something like this to read books on the go, I really like it. I actually know people that bought the Y700 just specifically to use these for reading. If you want something cheaper than the Y700 just for reading, but you also want Android with a couple other powerful features, then it's not a bad tablet for that. I've talked about a lot of the positives of this, but I think it's time to cover a few negatives. One thing that I mentioned is this does not have driver support. This means that if you're playing something like PC games, the experience isn't the best. whereas other tablets can handle something simple like Megabonk at 1080p, even with the input delay set to 0. This is really struggling with it. Let me load it up here and you're going to see exactly what I mean. And it's pretty bad. I'm only getting 11 FPS. I'm pretty sure my old phone could run this better. So that's what I mean. It's not a device that you want for emulation, but it's a good tablet otherwise. There are certain systems that you can emulate on here well, like GameCube and Dreamcast, but don't buy this expecting a playable PC emulation experience. Overall, would I recommend this tablet? I think it's a good tablet, but it's not a great gaming tablet. It can be, but it depends how you use it. If you want this for Android games, you're going to be absolutely crazy happy with this thing. Every single Android game that I've run has played fine at max quality settings. Emulation, GameCube, Dreamcast, lower end stuff, no issues. Android gaming, reading, media, 3 really good uses for this tablet. If they use Snapdragon, this would have been far easier to recommend. Do I think it's worth the price? Absolutely. Did you see the new Y700 price? It's like $800 or something, which is crazy. And that's for the base model too. When mainline tablets like that one are getting expensive, it's okay to look at other brands like Alldocube. I do think they make great tablets. The build quality, everything's excellent about this device. Just the drivers, one negative. If you're looking for a small tablet to take on the go, I can easily recommend the iPlay 80 Mini Ultra. But I want to know what you think. Is this tablet worth it for you, or are you looking at something a little bit more premium? Do you want a higher end tablet with the Snapdragon 8 Elite, or is this good enough? I'm going to head out, but it's been really fun hanging out, talking about this tablet. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. If you have any questions regarding this tablet, make sure to also ask in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.